person, Ross's brother.
You're as unruly as a bunch of surgical undergraduates. That's all
Okay,
I can
a
say.
second.
Good morning. On behalf
Good
of the
morning
family,
and welcome.
welcome to Rossfest. It's wonderful to be able to celebrate now the life and remarkable achievements of Ross, my older brother. He'd have been excited at the programme that Frank and his team have put together for you for today, and he'd have been looking forward to it. We hope you enjoy it, and looking back a little, but I think Ross would have wanted you to look forward more and draw on the experience of meeting with like and non-like-minded people, all experts in your field. And in doing so, I hope you'll find some of the characteristics that Ross might have brought. The famous noise, enthusiasm, disruption that he'd have brought either during the meeting or afterwards. Chewing problems over with people that disagree with you, as well as those that do agree with you. And taking that to challenge orthodoxy. And as you'll see from the picture on the cover of the book, his most famous look of pencil in mouth, gazing off into the distance when you just knew that his mind had gone off to a different plane that didn't really involve you. Asking himself the big question, what if? Because that's probably one of his greatest achievements. Perhaps beaten only by his ability then to move on from that, draw people together, and do something practical about the problems in hand. So the family and I wish you a successful day. Have fun. Think back fondly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you, Ian. Welcome to the Ross. What happened to this thing? Who screwed up? Who touched the computer? Who's logged in? There was a pretty background, which is gone. Never mind. We'll fix that at the break. Welcome to, as you would say, if you were still there, the Rossfest Symposium in honor of Ross Anderson. My name is Frank Staiano. I'm professor of security and privacy here at Cambridge, and I was a former PhD student of Ross, and the one who came up with this Rossfest, although many others helped me make it happen, including all of you in this audience who turned up in spite of fires at Heathrow, rescheduled flights and whatnot. And thank you for being here. We have this Rossfest Festschrift. In academia, says Wikipedia, a Festschrift is a book honoring a respected person, especially an academic, containing contributions from the honoree's colleagues, former pupils, and friends. And this is the posthumous Festschrift for Ross. You can get a PDF at no charge from the Rossfest website, and I really would like to have this thing up because it even has the URL. So, what's happened? Anyway, so you can get the PDF, and you can also get the full authoritative curated bibliography of Ross, curated by Richard Clayton, who's here somewhere. He did a fantastic job, and it's also available in big text, so you can cite all of Ross's papers from that USB drive D. That's what we want. There we go. So if you go there, which is where you went to find out about this Placer book and so on and so on, you can get all these goodies. And if you missed out on pre-ordering one of these, then you can get it on print on demand. That's the same kind of arrangement that Ross had for his own book. If you want to buy the physical one, you can, but all the content of the book is available for free. And in fact, just as recently as yesterday, we completed getting the initial pages from the third edition of Ross's book, which Marcus has put online. This is something that Ross agreed with his publisher and was carried through afterwards when 5 years expired from the publication. Anyway, I was going to use a commercial publisher for this, then I decided to self-publish because otherwise the book would have cost a lot more. They would have had a say in what we could put in, and I just wanted to put in whatever I wanted, which I have now done, so I'm happy. The authors of the contributions to this Festschrift, most of whom are in this room today, will not present their papers as you would in a workshop, because otherwise you'd be needing several days, and instead they will just give a flavor for their research, and perhaps they will highlight how their research intersected with Ross's, and they'll basically give you an advertisement for making you want to go and read their paper. And you will find the research papers in the book more or less in the order in which the authors are going to speak. And besides that, we also have 2 sessions of cherished memories, which are the one-pagers that you also find in the book, or ad-libs that are not associated with research papers. And many thanks to Anne Wu, who is also here somewhere over there, who collected many of these, made up a website, anderson.love, that you should go and check, and who arranged the lovely picture boards that you see in the street. So, giving the good example, here's the advert for my own paper in this book. After a few years in industry, I joined the security group at Cambridge in the summer of 1997, having just been accepted as a mature PhD student of Ross for an official start the following January. And at that point, Ross had been a lecturer for a couple of years, and he had built up a research group of 4 or 5 students, and you'll find all the students listed in the book as well. And Ross, too, before me, had done his PhD as a mature student after several years in the real world. And so we had a similar outlook on many things, and we clicked immediately. I had no idea at the time that one day I would end up being his colleague at Cambridge, but he's the one who inspired me, and he's the one who showed me the way and who taught me my trade as an academic. So my first contribution to this book is an extensive biographical memoir that tells Ross's story from talented, nerdy, bullied high school kid in Glasgow to a mathematics undergraduate at Trinity College, Cambridge, who completed his degree in 2 years, to a self-taught cryptography expert consulting for banks and utilities across Europe, Asia, and Africa, to a mature PhD student back here in Cambridge, and immediately afterwards as a faculty member, and very soon a recognized research leader on the world scene, the one who would again and again open up a new subfield of security and pull together a research community around it, typically by starting a workshop series that still continues to this day. Ross was an inspiring supervisor, and he graduated 31 PhD students, several of whom are here today, and 5 of whom helped me put together the book and today's program. So thanks to Ilya Shumailov, whom I saw earlier. I don't know where he is. Ilya is over there. Joseph Bonneau, over there. Tyler Moore. Richard Clayton, mentioned earlier, I still can't see him. Over there. And Marcus Kuhn. Richard Clayton, as I said, is the one who curated the bibliography. Marcus Kuhn is out there, also a faculty member here, and among other things, he will show you the microscope that he used to hack into security chips and smart cards with fuming nitric acid and microprobes and all that stuff. He also has various other museum exhibits about hardware hacking. So just go and find Marcus during the breaks and you won't be able to shut him up. My second contribution to this book is a paper about my current research, which is digital money and decentralized finance. And when I say digital money, I'm not just talking about cashless payments like tapping your watch to pay for coffee, but about money itself becoming digital and maybe programmable like Bitcoin or Ethereum, or rather like the still experimental government-sponsored versions of those digital currencies that the central banks will issue in order to retain control of the monetary policy. Ross always looked very carefully and critically at the consequences that technology had on society, and this is why I feel I am honoring his memory by discussing these issues. The society of tomorrow will run on this digital financial infrastructure, so this is a topic that will profoundly affect everyone, including the non-geeks. And even more so after the shall we say, eyebrow-raising developments in cryptocurrency policy after the recent presidential election in the largest economy in the world. Quite apart from various pump and dump frauds and Ponzi schemes, there are also deep and fundamental ways in which the transition to digital money, depending on how it's designed and deployed, might affect not only your financial security, but also your civil liberties. The list of desirable properties that a good-spirited person might want to have for an ideal digital currency contains some crucial features that are mutually contradictory. For example, protecting the privacy of individuals versus the ability to fight organized crime, or protecting the stability of monetary value versus the ability to remedy financial crises by printing more money when one feels it needed. So it's not just a matter of how do we achieve this difficult technical goal. It's rather a matter of what is the technical goal that we should be aiming for in the first place, the one that will be most beneficial to society, rather than just the most powerful bullies and the lobbyists and the ones with the bright ideas for making lots of money. And it's one of these situations where if we get it wrong, we will be locked down by compatibility shackles that will be very hard to get rid of, and by a surveillance infrastructure, because money, if you know where you spend money, you know everything about a person, that will allow an evil incumbent to remain entrenched. And I'm very fond of quoting Phil Zimmerman, which I do from time to time, the creator of PGP, who said as much in his 1996 testimony to the US Senate. In a democracy, Phil Zimmerman said, it is possible for bad people to occasionally get elected. Surprise, surprise. Sometimes very bad people. Normally, a well-functioning democracy has ways to remove those people from power. But the wrong technology infrastructure could allow such a future government to watch every move anyone makes to oppose it. It could very well be the last government we elect. I'm not sufficiently arrogant to believe that I have all the right answers, but read my paper for at least some of the questions. I'm also offering a graduate course on digital money here at Cambridge, hoping to motivate some bright kids to come up with disruptive ideas like Ross did with my generation. So we plan today's schedule to have pretty long breaks for coffees and lunch. So that we give you a chance to mingle and talk with other people you might know through your common connection to Ross. And you may not have met in many years, but they're all here today on this special day. I encourage you to make the most of these opportunities. Don't just take the breaks as the time to go and do your email. So the food here at the Computer Lab is generously sponsored by Bruce Christensen at Hertfordshire, who's not here because he's at the wedding of his son, longtime friend of Ross, by Google DeepMind, and by our own department, to all of whom we are very grateful. The evening, about half of us, those who pre-booked it, will reconvene at Trinity College for the formal dinner with pre-dinner drinks in the old combination room at 7 p.m. And after the dinner, then Ian will give an after-dinner speech where he will go into greater lengths about his brilliant brother. So with that said, I give the floor to Professor Virgil Gliger of Carnegie Mellon University, a pioneer of computer security and an old friend not only of Ross, but of Ross's PhD supervisor, Roger Needham. When he first met Ross in 1993, Virgil was an established professor and Ross a humble but brilliant PhD student, and Virgil immediately recognized Ross as a rising star in the field, as he says in the cherished memory that you'll find in the book. And he will now paint a portrait of Ross through the lens of the recommendation letters that he wrote in support of Ross's promotion at various stages in his career.
So when Frank asked me to speak at this event, I had absolutely no idea what I'd say, primarily because everything that had to be said was said in this book. So what could I say to enlighten you in any way? All of a sudden, I realized that I wrote a number of letters for Ross between about 2009 and 2019. And these were directed to the university for promotions to some other professorial band, or to the Department of Homeland Security in the US for getting a multi-year visa for entry in the United States. And those were letters which Ross knew about because he had asked me to write them. But then I realized that in 2015, I wrote a letter that Ross never knew about. And that was a nomination for the ACM SIG on security and privacy. And that letter was very different from the other because it was directed to Ross's peers, not to some faceless bureaucrat in a US government agency. And the letter had an added virtue, or has an added virtue, and that is 3 of the 4 people who endorsed it are here today. So what I'm going to do is to leak to you what they wrote. I don't need a signal channel. I can leak it publicly. So I'm going to proceed with that and then close with a few remarks. So the letter is addressed to the ACM SIGSAC, that Special Interest Group on Security, Audit and Control, Outstanding Innovation Award. And it says, "To whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter to nominate Professor Ross Anderson for the 2015 SIGSAC Outstanding Innovation Award. I believe Professor Anderson is eminently qualified for this award. I've known him since his early days as a graduate student at Cambridge and followed his work with keen interest for nearly 2 decades. I believe I have sufficient information to comment on his outstanding research and notable international eminence in security engineering." I must interrupt myself here and mention that these letters have to contain no more than 3 accomplishments. And I'm sure that you'll recognize that Ross has many more. So first, Professor Anderson is very well known internationally for 3 major contributions. The first one is pioneering the security analysis of application programming interfaces, otherwise known as APIs, for cryptographic protocols and devices. His work in this area was based on the insightful observation that frequently expressed conviction that cryptographic systems fail more often because of poor engineering rather than lack of sound theory design. He's gained a lot of converts to his point of view over the past few years, and now API security is a recognized requirement of engineering practical security protocols. Second, Ross has been the driving force behind the area of security economics for nearly a decade. He did not publish the first articles in this area. However, he published some of the most influential ones, which is, after all, what counts. Unlike others who worked in this area before him, he converted a lot of us to his firm belief that behavioral economics is more important to information security than many other technical aspects we enjoy pursuing. I must admit that I'm one of these reluctant converts. How well is he known internationally in security economics? He's undoubtedly the most influential individual now, and he will continue to be so because of he blends superb technical security background with a keen understanding of the key ideas of behavioral economics. Third, Ross has been an uncontested leader in establishing security engineering as an academic discipline of the first rank. This is no small accomplishment. For the better part of the 70s and 80s, few academic research scientists consider security a research area worth pursuing. And fewer noticed its significant intellectual challenges. Ross's teaching and research helped change that. His book, Security Engineering, is a widely used reference in the field. His leadership in organizing some of the most successful workshops and conferences in the field, such as fast software encryption, security and human behavior, is widely recognized. In summary, I believe that few researchers are as qualified as Ross Anderson for this award, and most of those have already received it. His nomination read, Ross Anderson is internationally recognized for his innovative research in the areas of API security analysis, for cryptographic protocols, security economics, and security engineering in general. So, and now the leakage part. Who are the three people who are here? One is Bruce Nair, who's here. And Bruce said, Ross has been at the front of many of the major conceptual shifts in computer security over decades, recognizing real-world engineering over theory, understanding the value of an economic perspective, realizing the security psychology is critical, and so on. He is very well deserving. The next one is Professor Nicholas Kristin from Carnegie Mellon. You might not know Nicholas. He is the head of the Software Systems and Society Department. Very apt, given Ross's interest in all these three areas. Nicholas enthusiastically endorsed Ross's nomination. And he says, the nomination letter says it more eloquently than I could, but Ross's contribution to security fields are absolutely outstanding. As perhaps one of the best examples of his long-standing influence in this area is his 1993 papers on why crypto systems failed, which has undoubtedly withstood the test of time. He goes on to tell us that one of the main lessons of this paper is that security engineering needs to take human factors into consideration on equal footing with technical factors. And this is indeed something that we all noticed afterwards. It now sounds completely obvious with such subfields as usable security and security economics having emerged as avenues of very vibrant research with strong societal impact in the past 15 years or so. The advent of these fields at the intersection of technology and human behavior owes a lot to Ross's research and vision. And they have fostered the career of an entire generation of young academics, including myself. And then there was a letter which was very interesting, the most powerful one-line recommendation you can find. And this came from George Danezis. George writes, hello, Virgil. I would be delighted to support this. I'm currently in New York City. Can I send you an endorsement by Monday? And the answer to that was no, this is good enough. And finally, from the other end of the earth, from Taiwan, from Professor Shuping Winston Shea, came a longer letter, but essentially he states that he's delighted to give Ross his highest possible recommendation. He's known Ross's activity for a long time. And he said, Ross is a researcher of the highest caliber and an excellent mentor for young researchers, which nobody had noticed before. Anyway, having said this, excuse me? Did he get the award? Of course he did. Otherwise, I wouldn't read this. Yes, he did. He did, and it was very well deserved. There was not even a bit of discussion about it. So this event reminds me of actually a stanza of a poem by another famous Scot, who was actually a journalist, not a very notable one, much less known in his time than Ross. And he wrote, there is no death. The stars go down to rise upon another shore, and bright, in heavily jeweled crown, they shine forevermore. Ross's star will shine upon us in security and security engineering for a long time to come. Thank you.